I can't get these memories out of my mind. And some kind of madness is starting to hold. I, I tried so hard to let you go, but some kind of madness is swallowing me whole. Yeah, I have finally seen the light. I have finally realized what you mean. Now I need to know, is this real love? Or is it just madness keeping us afloat? But when I look back at all the crazy fights we've had, it's like some kind of madness was taking control. Yeah. Now I have finally seen the light.
All right, what's up, everybody? This is Bob Smith. I am still in YouTube jail on as far as live streaming is concerned. On my main page, they put me in YouTube jail for live streaming some space videos. I thought it was NASA, but I found out it wasn't NASA. It was somebody not even on the Richter scale compared to NASA. So NASA didn't do me wrong. It was some stupid little bumpkin company or whoever the hell they are. So anyway, for that, I am in Facebook jail. What YouTube does, which is really a stupid thing. It's really, really stupid. But hey, that's YouTube. But what YouTube does is that when you do a screen share and you have your screen on a video or on an image or whatever, right? You're no longer in the Google Hangouts control room because you're looking at the screen that you're screen sharing. Well, dumbass YouTube, what it does, it sends you a message on your control panel. But you're not in the control panel because you're screen sharing on another window. So you're getting a message in the control panel telling you to stop live streaming whatever copyrighted stuff you're live streaming, but you don't have any way of seeing it. And they only give you 2 minutes. So in about 2 or 3 minutes, you're busy doing your thing. You don't have any idea. Boom, they stop your live stream, and now you can no longer live stream, and they don't even tell you how long. I had to actually Google this and find out. So there's nowhere to appeal. There's nowhere to write to them, on these things. There's no copyright flag even. There's no community strike. But yeah, that's YouTube. This is how it is. When you are at the mercy of someone else or another company for what you want to do, which in this case is live stream a YouTube video, you have to play by their rules. And they know it. They're in control, you see? And there's nothing you can do about it. You can try to work with them, but if YouTube wants to put you in live stream jail for 90 days, then that's what they're going to do. I think it's a really ridiculous thing, could you not set it up in such a way where when the person is screen sharing, that you can send the message to them right there on their screen share, telling them this is copyrighted material. We need you to stop this live stream or else we're going to take away your live stream privileges. Could you not have put that in an obvious thing so I could have seen it? No, YouTube, you couldn't have. Anyway, all right, it's 9:38 a.m. on a Saturday morning here in Southern Cali. We've got 2 viewers watching. How you doing? We're talking about narcissism today. Malignant narcs, okay? They are everywhere. And unfortunately for some people, they are in some people's family. Lately, I've had a lot of people come to me, or, not really come to me personally, but, we've had discussions, and I've had discussions with people, I'll say, within the last 4 to 5 weeks, different people. And we tend to have this topic come up a lot: narcissism and narcissists. And I think one of the reasons is that narcissists are very, very common in the ex-Jehovah's Witness background. They're common in Seventh-day Adventists, very common there. Mormons, any kind of religious group. I think narcissism abounds in corporate America. I think you almost have to be a narcissist to get in a high position. You have to be a ruthless narcissist, because some of these job positions are just dog eat dog. And I know that sounds cliche, but I have seen it. I know some people, other people who work in corporate America, or who have worked in corporate America at one point, have experienced it and seen it. And it's a problem. It's a problem. Some cultures, even. I talked about cultures and races and ethnicities. And while there's always an exception to the rule, there's always an exception to the rule. But I'm speaking in general blanket terms now, in generalities. Some cultures have corruption, pettiness, arrogance, pride, narcissism. And it is so prevalent. It is intertwined. It is brainwashed into the people's minds and hearts. And it is intertwined with their identity. And when you're dealing with people like that, I always say people can change, but don't be looking for them to change, because it ain't never going to happen. You know what I mean? Hey, people can walk on water, right? But don't be looking for people to walk on water. I've heard that somebody walked on water a long time ago. I don't know if it's true. I have yet to see somebody walk on water. I know I can't. I know you can't. So, um, having said that, I wanted to talk a little bit today about malignant narcissists and what some people go through. Some people really, really go through hell with narcs in their lives. And I think if you are an ex-Jehovah's Witness, or somebody who's ex-Scientology even, then you probably have to deal with narcs quite a bit, especially if you're still in touch with your family members. And this is another thing. I'm not saying everybody is a narc. You know what I mean? I'm not saying everybody's family is a narc. But I tell you, I've just seen so many people with family members that, I would just sit back and say, I'm so glad I'm not in that family. I mean, look, I've been shunned. I was shunned the minute I turned 21 and left the Jehovah's Witnesses. The people that violently abused me and sexually abused me at home turned around and shunned me because I didn't go to meetings, because I had friends outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I wanted my own life. That was my crime. That was my crime. So I was shunned. I was shunned. And I never, ever forgot that. Never forgot it. Number one, because those people never changed. They never even said sorry. They never felt sorry. They felt entitled to abuse me. Why? Because they paid for my food and clothing and shelter. And they told me this. They told me this. They said, I pay for your food and clothing, so you do what I want. You are to obey your mother and father. And then they would quote scriptures while beating and abusing me. So, you know, there are people out there that feel justified in what they do. And you have to be careful because a lot of times it's people's family. Like I said, if you've got a nice family, good for you. You're lucky. You're one of the lucky people because 9 times out of 10, I know that there's Facebook glory, Facebook okay, it's like how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. That's Facebook fine. You're Facebook fine, but real life horrible. That's what that is, you know what I mean? And you have the same thing with family dynamics. You have Facebook family, right? You have your pictures on. You see people's pictures with their family, and they're smiling. They're sitting around, laughing and chatting and talking, blah blah blah. But then, when it gets down to it, there's some real problems, some scary problems, And like I said, in the past several weeks, different folks and I have had convos, you know, even people I meet out and about. Sometimes a person will strike up a convo with me and we get to talking a little bit. And lo and behold, they tell me about a narcissist in their life. And they might not say the word narcissist, but, the person that they describe and the experiences they have is just hallmarks of narcissism. And I wanted to talk about that today. I think it's important because we tend to have these people in our lives. And if you've been a born in or raised in the Jehovah's Witnesses, you know that narcs, I think about 90% of the Kingdom Hall is narcissism, especially the elders. I've had to deal with some really narcissistic elders. I'm telling you, bullied, feeding off of abuse, and just bullying me, targeting me, a little kid. But you see it in the carts too. You have the Jehovah's Witnesses when they say, we're going to call the police on you because you simply asked a question they didn't like. Or you brought up the Royal Commission. You brought up something they don't want to hear. Boom, they're going to call the police on you and try to get you set up to be arrested, falsely arrested. And this kind of attitude is hallmark classic narcissism. Trying to intimidate and scare you into silence, trying to intimidate and scare people and bully people into remaining silent or staying quiet. So these tactics are classic, and the kryptonite to a narcissist is detachment, your indifference to what they do. And a lot of times that's easier said than done, because what a narcissist will do is they will sit there and figure out what is near and dear to you. And they will use that to fuck with you. They will use that to try to control and manipulate you because they are truly powerless at the core of themselves. And they have no ability to they don't have the ability to validate themselves in a healthy way. They do not have the ability and the skill for healthy self endorsement and self validation. This is true. This is true what I'm telling you. So what they do is that they need to constantly feel like they are one up on you or whoever they're dealing with. Their relationships, whether it's personal or professional, to them, the relationship has to consist of either one up, someone having a one up on the other. They cannot have equal footing in relationships. That is painful for the narcissist. It is painful. So they are constantly looking and studying, and their mind is constantly trying to figure out where your weak spot is, what's near and dear to you, so that they can use it as leverage to have a one up on you. And I'm telling you, if you've had to deal with somebody like that, you know that gets old. You know it drains, it erodes any kind of goodwill or friendship or any kind of relationship you might have had with that person. And if you deal with somebody like that from your family, you know, it can get to the point where you just go full on no contact and gray rock. I've had to do it. I've had to do it. I've walked out of at least 3 people's lives. I have walked the fuck out. You hear me? And I did not give a moment's notice. Granted, it took me some years because I kept trying. I kept trying. I was young and I kept expecting folks to change. And this is the mistake a lot of us make, right? When we're younger and we just don't have the wisdom and experience of an older person, and you sit there and you expect others to change. The only person that you can change is yourself. When you're dealing with someone like that, the only thing that you can change is your own self. If you're looking for that other person to change and do right, even if it's your mama, society will have you think, well, because a woman gave birth to you, she's your mother and she's motherly and she's nurturing and she's always going to want your best interest. And while that might be true for the majority of the population, there are always exceptions to the rule. And there are some women that give birth that are not motherly. They do not have motherly feelings towards their infant children or their children, adult children, or they never have any kind of motherly feelings throughout the whole experience of their child. And a matter of fact, these people are so sick that they retaliate. They fight their kids like a little petty toddler. Let me give you an example. I'll give you a personal example. I've always been a bookworm, and because of that, I've been very loquacious throughout my life. Even as an early on, before I started first grade, I knew how to write a few words already. And this is what I taught myself because I was a latchkey kid. I didn't have a babysitter. I didn't have any parents to teach me these things. The only thing I had was imaginary friends. I kid you not. As a kid, my imaginary friends were teachers and professors, and they taught me things. They taught me things from books. So by the time I got to first grade, I already could read basic words like and, this, she, he, simple words like that. I could read and write them. So, needless to say, as I began to be older and get older and become more of an individual, at age 6, a human child has already pretty much formed their core identity, about 80%, 90% of it. So naturally, a narcissist with children will freak out because to them, the child is an extension. It is an object. It's kind of like a cell phone or a computer. It's mine, you're mine, and you do what I say. And narcissists will take their children and they will intertwine and enmesh their children's identity with their own. And so when I was coming up, whenever I didn't play the facade whenever the incubator, the woman that gave birth to me, and the step had company over, other quote unquote brothers and sisters from uh, from the Kingdom Hall, right? Of course, we were to play happy family, you know? And I was supposed to smile and sit there and talk to these people and yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. Can I get you something to drink? Can I get you food? Well, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to come out of my room. I didn't see why I had to be hypocritical and come out and pretend when the whole time when I'm at home, when they're at home and nobody's looking, they're beating and molesting me, and they don't give two shits. I stayed in my room the whole time, didn't talk to them. As I became older, I wouldn't even come out unless I had to use the bathroom, or I wanted to grab something from the kitchen, or had to go to school or to the meetings. So needless to say, I didn't play along very well. I didn't come out of my room. So I got a lot of trouble for that because the incubator would say, "You're shaming me in front of everybody." And looking back as a healthy adult, you want your children to behave, right? But it was so intertwined. Her identity hinged on my actions and how I perceived her. Now, as a child, it was easy for her to brainwash me into seeing her a certain way. But as an adult now, especially since I've cut ties for years, I think it's going on a decade now, and Gray rocked her ass. It's a whole different ball game because now you can see it from a healthy, balanced adult perspective. But you see, when you have a narcissist as a parent, you're not dealing with an adult. You are dealing with an adult child syndrome, a narc that is a toddler. So this is what she would do. She would tell me, "I'm going to get you back. You don't know me, but you're going to get to know me." And whenever she would say these things, the look, it would send a chill down my spine. I was so scared of her, you see. But the thing is, she would have me look at her as the saintly one, as the good parent, while she had the step carry out the dirt, which is to beat and molest me. Now, she was always there for every beating. She was there every single time that man violently beat me. She was there. As a matter of fact, I can only recall two or three times, actually, I can only recall once where he smacked me when she wasn't there. And there was no blood, there was no viciousness. I mean, the smack hurt, but he smacked me, and I think I had a fat lip for 30 minutes. But the vicious, violent beings, she was there for every single one. You know why? Because she was getting me back for not coming out of my room when her company was there, to play the role, for not cleaning the dishes. She would say, "I'm going to get you back. You just wait till your stepfather gets home. I'm going to get you back for this." So I'm this 8-year old kid. I'm a kid. Kids don't want to wash dishes, right? They don't want to mop the floor. They don't want to pick up after themselves. They're kids. And number two, you're never even there. I'm all alone. 90% of the time, I'm by myself. So who the hell is going to teach me these things? I mean, look, I had a good imagination, and my imaginary friends did teach me things from the books, but there's only so much a little kid can do, right? I can't do it all for myself. I'm a kid. All right. Well, this is how narcissists operate, whether it's in a parent child relationship, in a professional relationship where there's a boss and an employee, that same pattern will surface, or even in an intimate relationship, man woman, or woman woman, guy guy, whatever it is. You have these things happening all the time because you're dealing with someone who is weak at the core. They're self-loathing at the core. It's a twisted, it's an arrogance. There's a strength when it comes to ruthlessly manipulating and controlling others, but it's really coming from a place of weakness and fear. Number one, the fear of being unmasked, the fear of someone seeing through them. That's the biggest fear for a narcissist. Somebody discovering who the fuck they really are. Excuse my French. And then number two, being exposed. So in my case, the worst fear was realized for the incubator because at 33 years of age, it took me some years and I could, it's like you see it, but you don't want to see it because it's your mom. In my head, she was still my mom at the time. And who wants to see that about their mama, right? Who wants to realize that? So I had to come to a decision. It's either my well-being and health or me staying for the sake of quote unquote family and mama. That's a hard decision, isn't it? It's a very, very difficult decision. Well, I'll tell you, this is something a lot of ex Jehovah's Witnesses will have to go through. I see it in the ex Jehovah's Witness community. I see a lot of narcissism in there, a lot of control and manipulation techniques. And I see the patterns follow people. People talk to me and have discussion. And, I'm not the only one who's had narc parent. There's a lot of us with really nasty narc parents, just like what I've described, even worse. And, when you come out of that, I guess you start to be, when that pattern follows you, you start to just to be highly vigilant. You start to look out for it so you can cut it out. No, take a message. You become a lot more watchful because you see the pattern, this pattern. And this is why I'm making this live stream, is that I'm trying to bring a little bit more awareness to it, because even though somebody might have walked away from a cult or walked away from a relationship, the patterns might still be in you. You might turn around and get with another situation where once again you're dealing with this kind of person. And it can take a lot out of you. It can cost you a lot. It can cost you quite a bit. All right, so let's take a look at the live chat. Something found. Good morning, Bob. Gray Rock all the way. Hashtag tossed. Hashtag bye, bitch. Yes, exactly. Something found. My sentiments exactly. Oh, something found. I can't get back into that Hangouts because I'm on this thing, this screen name. So if you want to send them the link so they can join if they want to, Chia and all of them, feel free to do that. But some cultures are a lot more narcissistic than others. And I know I might be stepping on somebody's toes and people might be, translating what I'm saying as bigotry or racism. But at this point, I'm going to just have to talk about it. All right, something found. I appreciate that. You can send it to whomever. It's a secret live stream, but it's not really secret. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Elders book. It's the secret Elders book, which everyone has. So, yeah. When you're at the Kingdom Hall, you don't really have any friends. I remember being about 15 or 16. And the only person my age at the Kingdom Hall started to befriend me. You know why? Because I was friends with somebody she wanted to date. So before, she never even gave me the time of day. But then all of a sudden, she would come up to me and offer me things. Hey, you want a piece of gum? Hey, you want to hang out? Is Mark coming? Is your friend Mark coming too? You want to come bowling with us this Saturday? Why don't you invite Mark too? So you have these kinds of quote unquote friends at the Kingdom Hall, but you and I know the deal, right? They're not really your friend. You can't really talk to them about what matters, what really matters, or what you really think, right? Because they're obligated to tattletale on you. And the minute if they see you doing something out of line, and then not only that, but you've got idiots that make up shit about you, that just make up straight up lies about you to get you in trouble. And because they might be some elder's daughter or someone who's influential in their family, they get believed 110% over you, and you're going to have to just eat dirt. Happened to me. Happened to me. And I'm sure it's happened to a lot of other people too. But the kryptonite for narcissists is indifference. And here's where I'm going to go back to. You cannot change these people, and it's no use waiting on them. No matter what they tell you, they might tell you whatever. And narcissists are very good at hoovering and sucking you back in when they think they're about to lose you. When they know you are ready to get the fuck out of their life. I've already walked out of 3 people's lives. I look, years ago, I think my pattern, I didn't even realize it, but I think because of my background, people who were narky, I thought this was just how people were. And I tolerated all kinds of people in my life that right this day I wouldn't even give a second look at. And I would ask myself, why do I keep having these people in my life? What the hell? Until I realized repetition compulsion. It is something I think about 99% of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses uh, have to deal with. You have a repetition compulsion for narcissism in your life, straight up. I don't care if you're a narcissist or not, but you have a tendency that is embedded in you from Watchtower to be attracted or to tolerate these people when they cross your path, to let them befriend you, and or even involved in business relationships. We as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have this tendency, and it must be addressed. It must be talked about a lot more than it has been, because it's an invisible enemy. Yes, you can cut off one narc, but if you haven't worked on that pattern inside, you're going to keep getting these people. And what's going to happen is you're going to start thinking people are dangerous. You're going to start saying, fuck people. I hate people. I don't want to be around people, because you're not aware of the pattern. And because you've had one person after another, you've had these experiences, you begin to believe that this is how people are in general, right? So earlier I talked about cultures. You have certain ethnicities and backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, that have high corruption. All right, I'm just going to break it down to you. All right, we have a transparency index. And in years past, I never even thought to look at these things. I never even gave it a second look, because I thought I'm open to all cultures. I don't really discriminate. I don't have any, I don't care what a culture, what race or what culture a person is, right? But when you are getting involved in in certain kinds of relationships, whether it's a business relationship, an intimate relationship, or a friendship, or anyone that you have to give a measure of trust to, a certain measure of trust, right? You want to be aware of who they are and their background and their tendencies. There are always exceptions to the rule, right? I can't say this enough because I know somebody's going to listen to this and say, oh my God, Bob is racist. And they're just going to lose the whole message. But you have corruption tendencies by different countries. And this is a fact of life. This doesn't mean everybody in that country is corrupt. It doesn't mean everybody in these countries is going to screw you over or is narcissist, but you have certain cultures and regions of the world, as you see here, that have higher propensity for corruption than others. And it's not just corruption, but it's ingrained into their identity. When someone says, I'm American, when someone says, I'm Chinese, when someone says, I'm Ukrainian, when someone says, I'm Puerto Rican, it means more than just them coming from a specific location. It's also a specific mindset. And as you can see here, you have yellow, red, orange, and maroon, right? I think there's one, or burgundy even. So you have 5 or 6 different colors here. But when you look at this, let me see if I can increase the size on this. All right, you see right here on this bar, it goes from dark red all the way to yellow, okay? And highly corrupt is burgundy, super blood dark red. The points they get is 0 to 9. And then very clean is on the other end, yellow, 90 to 100. So when you look back on this world map here, there's more red and burgundy and orange and maroon than there is yellow. You see that? So now, this is what you have to keep in mind. When you're dealing with people, sometimes you can look at that and it can give you an indication of how to deal with that person more effectively, more efficiently. Okay, but don't get me wrong, because when you see the countries in yellow, there's some scammers all up in them countries too. So you can't, you can't say, oh well, this person is from New Zealand and New Zealand is one of the top most non-corrupt countries, so this person will be fine. You can't do that necessarily, but what you can do is keep in mind their background and how to deal with them, their tendencies and their mentality, and also look at them as an individual. Because I've met people that were Chinese only in name. And no, they weren't born here. They were born and raised in China, but they were not Chinese acting, or their mindset was not Chinese. They were very, very, very Western, except for a couple of things. But, you know, um, you have to keep this in mind, that certain regions, certain people from certain regions and certain backgrounds have a different definition of truth. Okay, they might have a different definition of authenticity. And let's just face it, if you're talking about third world countries, you might be dealing with a third world bumpkin. And what's a third world bumpkin? A third world bumpkin is somebody that knows what they're doing isn't right. They don't care. They're stuck. They are completely stuck in their ways. And to them, the corruption is part of their identity. They take it on as a cultural identity. It's a lot like people here, when they take pictures of shoes, Nikes and Reebok and name brand shoes, Air Force Ones and shit. They take pictures because it's their identity. Oh, I bought these $300 shoes, so now I feel elevated. I feel like somebody. It's giving me some self-endorsement because I've got these expensive shoes, and I want you to look at them on my pictures, so you can look up to me now and see me as higher in status because I've got this car, or I've got these clothes, or whatever it is that people hinge their identity on. But really, you have no identity. If it weren't for the shoes or the car, where would you be? And this is the same thing. You have these corruption tendencies, you have narcissistic tendencies. People are on survival mode, you see. When a general culture is in survival mode, they do not have their needs met to be able to process higher level thinking because they're still trying to get food and water. They're still trying to figure out how to survive. And even if they do have food and water and home, that country bumpkin mentality, not country, but third world country bumpkin mentality stays with them because it's ingrained in them. They've been told that this is part of your identity. So they're not going to let go of it. And they will come to a place like America and expect America and everyone else, every other culture, to defer and bend for them. you know and it's really hilarious because I'm an immigrant and I had to adjust to America. I couldn't come up here and force people to do according to my background, so I don't see why another immigrant would have to come here and expect that. No, you're going to have to adjust as well or take your shit back to your country. You don't like it here, go back. That's what I was told when I first came here. I went to school and I was like, well, in Germany, this is this. And they told me, go back to Germany then. So take a look at this corruption index. Number one is New Zealand. They seem to be at the top of the clean. They're not corrupt. See, this starts with the countries that are the least corrupt, which is New Zealand, number one. Denmark, number two. Finland, Norway, Switzerland. So this is pretty interesting. And then look at down here at the worst country, the most corrupt is Somalia. Somalia has been that way for some time. Next is South Sudan, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, Sudan, Libya. Now, I'll tell you something about this, Syria. Whenever I deal with certain kinds of litigants, and they come from Syria, Armenia, the Middle East, I always get ready for the embellishments, okay? Because they're going to have, first of all, it doesn't matter what case they're coming with. If it's a divorce, RFO, request for orders, a custody change or visitation change, or they're coming in with an eviction, a UD, an unlawful detainer. It doesn't matter. They will always have this need to establish themselves as a one-up over me because they're coming into the center and they need help desperately and they feel very vulnerable and they don't like that. So the first thing they always do is ask me, what is it that you'd really do? Are you a lawyer? Are you the lawyer here? And I always have to tell them, no, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a paralegal. This is what I do. Well, what else do you do? And then I just throw something out because I already know the game. And then they will tell me they do that too. Except they will tell me that they have a degree in it or they went to school in it or, whatever. And then they always want to let me know that they're rich in some way. You're rich, but you're asking for a fee waiver for this court case. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I get that. But, I don't pay any attention. I play it along because I don't have time. I've got about 7 or 8 other litigants. Sure, you're rich. You're all this. Great. I love it. Great. Thanks for letting me know. Now, get these papers here. Put your name on every page here. Put your case number. Let's get it moving because I don't care. But I notice there's certain kinds of folks that always come in with that same pattern, and it's to establish their own sense of safety, I guess. You know, it's I don't know what it is, but I noticed from a lot of folks that come from Syria, Afghanistan, Middle East, Libya, Armenia, they have this, and they always want to show me that they have money, but yet they're asking for a fee waiver. I don't get that kind of logic, but hey, maybe maybe that's the way it works from where they're at. But you agree with that, Dev? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what do you think about that? We've got 5 viewers, and we are talking about narcissism. Evie Brooklyn, how you doing? Evie Brooklyn says, "Hi, Bob. Can't chat. Cleaning and listening. Big hug to you and SF." All right. Yeah. These live streams are just what people need on a Saturday. People are chilling back, or they're cleaning. Some people are running errands, right? Some people are working, and you can turn on and listen to the live stream while you're working. It can make your work day or your work night go a little bit easier. But we have 4 people watching right now. We got Something Found, Evie Brooklyn in the live chat over here, and we are talking about malignant narcissists. Now, as I've said before, there are certain cultures that carry that, and these cultures aren't necessarily ethnic or racial. They can also be organizational, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, highly narcissistic. And, I've been soul searching into myself, wondering if I've got narcissistic tendencies from having been around these kinds of people, because you do tend to pick up fleas. This is called narcissistic fleas. And what that really means is that you might have had family that you didn't have a choice to be in, but these narcs were in your family. Might have been the woman that gave birth to you. And because of years and years of this narc fucking with you since you were a kid, you might have picked up some fleas that you're not aware of. Okay? Hey, what you want to tell me? Hmm? Come on. You want a hug? Give me a hug, big cat. Come here, big boy. What you want to tell me, huh? Look at you. You want to say hi to the live stream? Hmm? You want to say hi to everybody? All right, you better not kick me. You better not kick me. You want attention? This is Dev. He wants attention. He wants to be all up in the convo. Oh, he's kicking me because he's mad I'm on the live stream. You going to give me diva attitude? Diva Dev? Huh? You better not. Hmm? Why are you pushing me away? All right, go on, Diva. Go on, Diva. Go on. Crazy cat. All right. So it's not just in cultures or in a nationality, but it's also in a organization. When I speak of a culture, it's a lot like a culture on a petri dish, you see, and you have an enclosed group of people, whether it's in a family, whether it's in an organization, or whether it's a church, a business, a corporation. I'll tell you, H&R Block has a lot of narcs up in there. And Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of narcs. I remember as a kid, let me see, I was probably about 10 or 11, and we were going out in field service. It was a sunny day, probably about 10:30 in the morning, and we're on this street, and I was working in service with some quote unquote sister. I forget her name, and there was other people. We had to pair in twos, so there were 2 other pairs of field service people, and as we got around to the corner to do the next side, 2 of them say, Don't go over there to that house. That's ex-Sister Miller, and she's disfellowshipped. What did she get disfellowshipped for? Well, they disfellowshipped her for celebrating Christmas with her daughter, but she might have already committed immorality before that. And all kinds of scenarios of what this woman might have done besides celebrating Christmas was talked about as if it really happened. And by the time I passed her house, because we skipped her house, I thought she was the worst person in the world. I mean, I'm a kid. I'm taking this in from the adults, right? All right. Well, a few weeks later, somebody gets announced to be disfellowship. And this was back, before they had that announcement. Now they say so and so's no longer a Jehovah's Witness, right? Or something like that. Well, back then, they announced whether you were disfellowshipped or disassociated and for what reason. So they announced a quote unquote brother getting this fellowship for brazen conduct. And he was there. He was sitting there at the Kingdom Hall. And after the song and after the prayer, after the meeting ended, everyone ignored him. And I had to do the same. I wasn't going to talk to him and get in trouble. But it didn't faze me the same way as when one of my friend's mother got this fellowship. I think she DA'd herself, actually. And now I was no longer allowed to even talk to her kids who were my age. We were friends. They didn't disfellowship themselves. They didn't DA. In fact, I walked to their home, their house. They lived close by. And I had permission from the mom to take them to the Kingdom Hall with me, to get my folks to give them a ride. And they went to the Kingdom Hall with me. And when we got to the Kingdom Hall, Cornelius Hall, he was the elder there. I'll never forget that. He pulled aside, not me, he pulled aside the incubator and the step and told them that I was not to have association with these girls because their mother is DA'd. So that put an end to I wasn't allowed to talk to them anymore. And they had done nothing wrong. They were even willing to go to the Kingdom Hall. They had done nothing wrong. You know what it was? The mom just didn't want to be a Jehovah anymore. She wanted to date her man. She she wanted to have her boyfriend, and she didn't want to do the Kingdom Hall thing anymore. But she didn't stop her daughters from going. And she never tried to talk me out of anything. She never tried to tell me anything. The daughters never did, but there you go. Now they were cut off. So, that really hurt me because I had to cut my feelings off. I had to no longer be friends with them. And I had to become a narc. I had to become narcissistic in the sense that you just cut someone off for no reason. You judge them for control. You know why they did this? Because they wanted to punish the mother. They wanted to punish her, control. And that's what this shunning thing is. It's all about controlling. It's all about mental and emotional manipulation. And what happens is that a lot of people get messed up in this cult to the point where they end up helpless or have learned helplessness. They end up on the system. So now you have these narky family members using financial control. And this is a real thing. There are narc parents that will systematically fuck their kids up to the point when they become an adult, they cannot take care of themselves financially. And this is exactly what they want. You know what they do? It's sick. They'll say, I'll help you. I'll give you this and this and this, but then you have to do their bidding. And when you don't, then they'll chide the person. They'll tell the person you're useless. Um, they'll withdraw their financial support from them. And because the person's fucked up now, what are they going to do? They're either going to be on the street or they're going to defer. They're going to break them down. And this is the classic narc move. Not all narcissists do this. Not all of them have the means, right? But the ones that do, what they do is they will hook their victim, their target, into a financial obligation. And this can happen with work too. You can work somewhere and they can do this to you, where you're working, you're employed, but you're at the mercy of the manager or the owner, and they got you hooked. You can't just leave that job, like tomorrow and go somewhere else. You might have been set up in a certain circumstance where you're going to have to be there for a minute or for a long time. And this is what they love to do. And you know what? They'll do this while at the same time chiding you for being dependent. Yes, they'll abuse you. They'll tear you down for what they've done to you. Yep. It's like they'll cut off their kids' legs before they ever able to walk. And then when that person's an adult in the wheelchair with no legs, they'll say, "You fucking cripple. Why don't you grow some legs? Why don't you start walking and get out of here? You don't like it here? Then get up and walk out of here. Get up out of that wheelchair and walk out, knowing that I'm fucking cut that person's legs off." You see? So, what do you think about that? We have 4 viewers right now. We are talking about malignant narcissists. And I know that a lot of people have gone through this and still go through it. We see this in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community. We see it in groups. I'm not going to name any groups, but I have not seen not one group that doesn't have narcissism in it. And some of these ex-Jehovah's Witness groups, the narcissism runs rampant. And it's not just narcissism. You have histrionic personalities in there, which are in that same antisocial personality cluster, right? ASP, in that same ASP cluster, antisocial personality cluster. You have narcissism, you have sociopath, you have histrionic personality, borderline personality, all in that same cluster. And you have some people that might have tendencies or they have their moments, but I'm talking about consistently over time, consistently over a long period of time. It's not just when the person's stressed, because we all can get narky if we're stressed. We can act selfish, but I'm talking about consistently over time, not just situational or exceptions to the rule, but consistent over time. And I've sat back and watched the ex-Jehovah's Witness community for some years now, and unfortunately, my take on it is that there is a 80 to 90% narcissism, even with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Let me put it to you this way, because I think some people would say, well, I don't agree with that. There's a lot of nice people. And I say, yes, there is. But how many of those people are still dealing with narcissistic fleas that they have, that they're not aware of, you see? And you have it in some of these groups. You can't criticize, you can't ask questions, you'll get kicked out. You might even get threatened. When you speak out about somebody that's done you wrong in a particular group, oh, just shut up, hush, hush, sweep it under the rug, just take it. You have people that, because they have a high tolerance for inappropriate behavior, they're looking to you to be just as tolerant of that inappropriate behavior. And when you don't follow along, then you're discarded, then you're kicked out, or you might even be talked about behind your back. That's narcissistic, because cults and narcissists don't entertain questions. You are not allowed to ask. You're not allowed to criticize. And that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do, right? The minute you go to a Jehovah's Witness at the cart and they realize that you used to be one of them and you already know the jig is up, they can't lie to you or trick you. What do they want to do? They want to call the police. You want to call the police because someone is questioning you and your religion? You want to get people arrested? That's narcissism. And I've seen people in relationships do that. Every time the person was confronted about something by the other person, I'm calling the police on you. I'm calling the police. You know what that really does? It shuts down communication. It shuts it down. And when there is no communication, there is no relationship. I don't care if it's a business relationship or a personal one or neighbor to neighbor. When you don't have communication anymore, when you've shut that down, there's nothing. It's zero. And you have this happening in the kingdom halls. You have people sitting there and they play the role, right? We're united. We're a brotherhood. But how much communication is there really in the Kingdom Hall? Come on now, right? You have cliques, you have secret little cliques within cliques. And it's the same thing with XJW activists. There's no difference, really. I think most of these activists they're in a social club. These groups are just social clubs. That's all it is. I don't think they're really doing activism as much as they're doing socializing. It's a lot like the Jehovah's Witnesses getting ready for field service. They put on their little suits and their dresses and they pack their books and their little Bible shits and they get to the Kingdom Hall and they sit there and doo-wop in front of each other and then they say a prayer and they go out there and they knock on a couple of doors for about 45 minutes and then they hit McDonald's or the buffet. And they're going to sit there for at least an hour or two, eat, drink, talk, gossip, look on their phone, chat on Facebook, post, and then they're going to leave a little watchtower or a tract because they're still counting that time, you see. So out of 4 hours of quote unquote field service, you've got about 45 minutes of that of actual going door to door, not having talked to anybody because nobody's opening the door, So they might not even talk to one person in those 4 hours, but they've had 3.5 hours of sitting there, eating, drinking, chatting with their friend, catching up, cell phone, surfing, whatever. And this is kind of how I see all of these activists doing it. These ex-Jehovah's Witness activists and these ex-Jehovah's Witness protest groups, they're doing it the same way. They're out here socializing. And then they'll, crash a cart right quick, put it on YouTube so people will see and think, oh, wow, they're just doing all of this stuff. Yeah, you see about 20 minutes of it because they quickly videoed that. That's their track. That's their afterthought, their obligatory track that they leave on the table at the China buffet, man. They're not really doing any kind of activism. They're socializing. That's the number one. It's a social club before anything else. And then we just so happen to pass a card. All right, let's turn on the cam. Let's do this. But that's not the number one agenda. And it's narcissistic all the fucking way. I don't care what people say. You know what I mean? Narcissists will do nice things for you, right? They don't always do bad shit to you, especially if let's say you're going down the road and your car conks out on you, get a flat tire. Well, that narcissist, he or she might help you with that flat tire, and you'll be like, "Wow, thank you so much. You saved my day, and I was finally able to get to work. Oh, no problem, no problem. Yeah." But while you're on your way to work thinking, "Oh, what a nice person this friend was," this narcissist now is looking at you in a one down position. They didn't help you with that flat tire for you. They helped you with that flat tire for them, you see? Because unlike you, they don't have any healthy self esteem. They don't have any way to self endorse because they're a piece of shit and they know it. So they're constantly needing to feel above other people because being on the same level with other people is not special. It's a reality. It's reality. And reality is you're no more special than the next person in the big picture. I don't care, what your background is or how much money you think you have, whatever. But to a narc, that just can't be. We cannot have an even level. One of us has to have a one up, and one of us has to be down. And the narc, of course, is always going to want to be up, one up. So this is the perfect opportunity to come in and do something for you because now you owe them. In that person's mind, you owe them. You're thinking, "Oh, this person did me a favor, cool." Um, you owe them. Even if you pay them back, you will still owe a narcissist. Even if you pay them back, you will never, ever, ever be absolved of a debt with a narcissist. You will owe them forever. They give you a hamburger. They will see you owing them your life. It's like, wait a minute. All you did was buy me a hamburger, bitch. No, you owe me. You see? So you have to be careful with people like that. And you're dealing with a lot of these kinds of propensities and personalities. I'm not saying everybody in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community is narcissist, all right? But I'm saying there's a lot of them that probably have fleas, if nothing else. There might be borderline personalities. And borderline personalities usually have one or both parents that are narc. That's a common pattern. So when you're dealing with histrionic and borderline personality disordered people, realize that they might be coming from a narc. So they could be a lot worse, but they've just picked up so many fleas from their own family and background and the Jehovah's Witness thing that they're just impossible to deal with. It's just you don't want to fool with them. It's too sad, too bad, right? Because they might be an okay person otherwise, but these kinds of tendencies will drain and kill you, and narcs will kill you. Narcissists will kill you one way or another. They're killers. They're soul murderers, and there's nothing scarier than a zombie, someone who's been fucked up by a narcissist for life. They're dead. They're dead. Their body's not in the coffin. They can still talk to you and you still see them. They might look fine, but they are dead. They cannot go any further because the narc has cut their legs off and there's no coming back from it. I see a lot of people like that in the community. Dead. Charred up by a narc. And it's unfortunate, but you're going to be dealing with these kinds of people over and over and over and over. And they refuse to self-examine. They refuse to self-examine. In fact, they might even think they're a celebrity or a legend. Narcs have these fantasies of fame and fortune, of getting rich and famous. That's one of their fantasies, right? Their constant fantasies of being special and better than the rest. And only the elite can understand them. Only special people like them can really understand them and be around them. And they have these little exclusive cliques and social clubs and things like that, right? Well, what do you expect? We got Formula One Big Boss up in here. I jump in here. They're dead. They're dead. Goodness. Yes. What's up, Big Boss? Evie Brooklyn says, shit, had to stop and chime in. Yes, I got so sick of it. Is it break time? Yes, Evie Brooklyn. Sour Blaze Hayes, what's up? All right, Sour Blaze Hayes. See you after work then. Narcissists will kill you. If you stay around a narc long enough, he or she will kill your soul. They might even try to kill you physically. The incubator showed me a shotgun when I was telling her I was going to go to the police. She walked me to the back bedroom. She said, I have something to show you. And all my life, this woman hated guns. Even before we became JWs, I remember being a little kid. And here we go with, this enmeshment of identity. She had no identity, and everything I did caused her to feel shameful, and it was really bad. Anyway, as a kid, I used to play with my friends, and we had guns. We had these little guns, and in Germany, we have these little um, rows that you can stick into the gun, and when you pull the trigger, it makes a like a firecracker type thing, and there's like smoke, and we loved these things, and we had all these little. My friend, he had all these guns, and we would play cops and robbers, right? And we would emulate the westerns that we saw on TV. And the incubator, whenever she caught me with the gun, she would just lose her shit. Stop playing with the gun. Give me that gun. No, I don't allow you to play with guns. They just cause war and they cause people to get killed. So she was always in my face as a kid about me wanting to play with guns. It didn't matter if it was a water gun or these little BB pistol play guns or whatever. I mean, she just had this complex about it. And when we became Jehovah's Witnesses, you weren't allowed to have guns at all, right? So that day, when she walked me to the back bedroom and she opened up their closet, she showed me a double barrel shotgun. And I said, I'm surprised you have this in your closet. I mean, I'm still not registering what the fuck she's doing or thinking about doing. Okay. Like, you don't think that about your mom. But it sure was weird because moments earlier, she told me she feels like killing someone. And she stared me. She stared me in the eye so hard. We were arguing. And I was telling her, I'm tired of keeping this secret. I want to go to the police about this. And, now I realize I shouldn't have never told her. I should have just went and left. You know what I mean? But she showed me that gun. And then she says, it's your stepfather's. He got it from his brother. And we had, this was just minutes before when I told her I wanted to go to the police. And then she told me she felt like killing someone. And then, of course, she walked me down the hall of her house into their bedroom and showed me that gun. And it didn't register with me, not at the time. And I said, this is really strange, but, they hadn't gone to the meetings in a while. So, I figured I didn't know what to think. I think in the back of my mind, I think I knew what she was up to, but I just didn't want to face it, And She told me and some other people throughout that week that she felt like killing someone. She wouldn't say who, and I didn't ask. I think I knew subconsciously she was talking about me, and I wouldn't ask. I was afraid to ask. But nonetheless, now looking back, she and he seriously considered and might have even made some real plans to shoot me. You have something called the castle doctrine in the South and in Alabama. And the castle doctrine is if somebody trespasses on your property and you feel afraid, you can shoot them and get away with murder. And think about it. I'm transgender, okay, and I've been to counseling for depression. Not surprising, right? Right? And of course, in the counseling, I did share my history, like, my childhood and what I went through and why I probably think I'm depressed. So, coupled with that, I think they were building a case to make me look like a crazy person so that they could just shoot me. Because I'll tell you, the last time I was in Alabama, I was on my way out to California, and I had just went to the police. I had just went to the DA, and they had a person that I thought was my friend. They had him call me, and it was really out of character the way he called me, because this guy was lazy. He was not going to get in his car unless there was like money involved. So he calls me out of the blue and he says, "Where are you at? I want to come pick you up." And I go, what? He's like, "I want to give you a ride back home." I go, "I'm not going back over there to them." "Well, where are you at? Let me just come pick you up. Let me just come pick you up." And it was so out of character for him because he never acted like that before. But I knew that they had given him a refrigerator and a stove, you see. So I knew this fucker was another one of these that's easily bought out. He was never my friend. And I think he was looking to get money from her from get go because years ago, I happened to be riding with him. We were heading somewhere and we rode by the incubator in the steps house. And I kid you not, this guy tells me, "Oh, your mother has enough money to get me, you, Tina, and my wife and all my kids out of financial debt," as we were riding by. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. And up to this day, I think this guy befriended me, not for me, but for what he thought he could get out of the incubator. And because I mean, the guy never had nothing in his name. He had a cell phone in somebody else's name. He was always borrowing money every fucking week. He was asking me for money, and I would tell him I don't have any. So he was always broke, always scrimping for change for his gas. I mean, it was just fuckery. So he calls me up. "Come on, let me pick you up. Come on, I'm just gonna take you to your mama's house." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to go there. I'm done with them. Just let me come get you. Come on, let's talk about it. I got something I want to holler at you about." And all this, just anything to try and get me to go back over to that house. And I tell you, my gut, it was a scary, scary feeling. It was just something in my gut says, do not go back to that house. This guy's setting you up. And it was just like logically, my mind was like, this can't be. This just can't be. This is like something in a movie. Going over there and see what they want. But my gut kept me away because I remembered the gun. And I swear to you, to this very moment, I swear to you, I think he was going to have me brought back to there and he was going to be one of their quote unquote witnesses as to, my craziness or whatever, and they were just going to shoot me. They were just going to shoot me in my back and get rid of me so they can finally live at peace, knowing that they got away with abusing me. You see? So, this is what I'm telling you. You stay around with narcs too long, they will kill you. They will try to kill you. And if they can't kill you physically, they will kill off your spirit. Guaranteed. Because a narc is like a scorpion. It's going to sting you. Because that's what scorpions do. There's a story with the frog and the scorpion. You heard that story? The scorpion wants to cross the river, the lake. And the frog says, well, you're a scorpion. I could have you sit on my back and I could swim you across, but you're going to sting me. And the scorpion goes, I won't sting you, I promise. You'll be my best friend. I just need to get across the lake. So the frog believes the scorpion, and the scorpion hops on top of the frog, and the frog swims across to dry land on the other side. And as soon as the frog is on the dry land, the scorpion hops off and stings the frog. And as the frog is dying in its death throes, it says, why did you sting me? You promised you wouldn't sting me if I brought you to the other side of the lake. And the scorpion says, but I'm a scorpion. That's what I do. You knew that from the beginning. And then the frog dies. So this is how narcs see it. Narcs will take you staying around as confirmation of their entitlement to continue. And this is where I have a problem with most of the XJWs in their social groups. Because you might have a high tolerance for inappropriate behavior, but don't be looking for me to match your tolerance. Okay? Don't enmesh your identity with mine. That's your unfinished business. Keep your boundaries over there with you. All right, we've got 5 viewers watching. We're talking about malignant narcissists. All right, let me see what we have here. 411 Big Boss says, who else is high right now? Well, I'm not high. I've taken some time off from it, but I might be high a little later. Something found says, not me, boss. Evie Brooklyn says, this sister who I called Minnie the Moocher came to my house to borrow an edge trimmer for lawn. And when I told her I didn't have one, she said, how could you not have one? I said, you don't have one. How are you going to get mad at somebody for not having something you don't have? See, this is something. These moochers expect you to take care of them. Something found says, oh my God, yes, Bob. Castle doctoring, all it takes is for them to just feel threatened and explain that to cops. Yes, and because in Alabama, it's a crime to be black, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, let alone transgender. Okay, you're transgender, you're fucked. And if your family wants to set you up, if they happen to be Jehovah's Witnesses, you're double fucked. And so yeah, the castle doctrine, in my heart of hearts and in my gut, I know that's what they were wanting to do. They wanted to snuff me out. And this guy that I thought was my friend, he was right along there with him because he was never my friend. He was always looking for what he could get. And, I escaped and I went no contact, Gray Rock, and, left. After I did my court stuff, I left and I had no dealings with these people whatsoever anymore. And I tell you, it took some years to work through the damage of what this malignant narc did, this incubator. And I know so many people have this too, you know what I mean? So many people have this. in their families. I don't even want to call people family anymore. I know people have this thing where, oh, we're good friends, we're just like family, or some people, they take on the XJW community as their family. This is my new family now, and thank you so much. But the more I live, the more hesitant I am to call people family. I'm afraid because what family means to one person doesn't necessarily mean the same to another. I've seen people that they, if they see you as family, they expect you to take their abuse and take their other family members' abuse. I mean, I had a girlfriend back in the 90s, and she was from a different culture, Chinese. And now she called me family. Of course, her mom and them didn't see me as family. But even with that, she treated me the way that she treated her family. And the first couple of years, I didn't get it. But at the third year in, I got so burnt out on that relationship because this wasn't healthy. And for example, we lived together. I paid 50. She paid 50. Okay? We split the rent 50-50. Utilities 50-50. But I didn't get 50-50 usage of my apartment because her mom was living in there, and then her mom moved some niece or somebody from Taiwan, and nobody asked me. I couldn't use my living room, and the mom was doing her mama son thing. She would be in the living room babysitting all these people's little kids, cooking food, but I wasn't allowed to eat any of it. But I had to pay half the power bill with her ass cooking and babysitting, and all of that. So, I like I said, I was young, so that went on for a couple of years. And I was expected to shut up and take that because that's the way that family does things. So this is when I learned about when people call you family. Some people you don't want to be family with. Okay? I'm just going to be straight up. And some people can be good friends. Like the incubator, I think she's a generous person to whoever she wants to be generous to. And she can play the role of a good friend, at least a minute or two, depending on how much of a distance that person keeps from her. But don't be her family member. Don't be her kid because that's a whole other treatment. And this is something a lot of people just don't get. You know, this person's a nice friend to you. They've stuck with you through thick and thin. You think you know them. And then when their adult son or daughter comes out and says they were being beaten and molested, you refuse to believe it. No way. I worked with this person for 20 years at this company. They always had my back. They always did a good job. They never were late. They worked hard. They're good people. I know this person. They would never do such things. And this person is convinced based on their adult relationship, their adult co-worker relationship. Bitch, you don't know this person. You worked with this person. You don't know this person. But this is how the narcissists do things, right? They set things up to make the environment and everyone think that they're such a sweet, loving person. You're just this crazy, horrible liar, right? So, yeah. All right, so we have 5 people watching right now. I'm going to take a quick break. Going to use the loo. Going to check on the cats. You guys okay? Dev's over here. He is chilled out right next to me. but his ears are still perked up, especially when I just said Dev. I'm going to give Dev and the cats a treat. And then we'll be back and we're going to talk a little bit more about malignant narcissists and what we can do about it. I want to address this thing in the XJW community too, because I think there's just too much crap going on. People are just ridiculous these days now, just straight up ridiculous. All right, I'll be back. Let's see. We're going to play Teach Me How to Dougie. You guys know that song? Hey, teach me how to Dougie. Hey, baby, let's move. What? Can you teach me how to Dougie? You know why? Cause all the girls love me. Hey. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you to back it up and dump it. Get it. Put your arms out front, lean side to side. They gon' be on you when they see you hit that Dougie ride. Ain't nobody getting with my bro from Morningside. He go by Bubba and he hit that dance like thunder. Okay, I ain't from Dallas, but I lead town boogie. I show my moves on to everybody trying to do it. I lead the functions and all the ladies trying to screw me. Now you just do you, and I'ma do it all day. Dudes love to hate, so they try to shoot me. Females be stuck to me. I think they try to glue me. I make the party shine bright when it started gloomy. This beat was bubble gum, so I had to chew it.
Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck.
Everybody love me. Everybody love me. Everybody love me. You ain't messing with my Dougie.
Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck.
Everybody love me. Everybody love me. Everybody love me. You ain't messing with my Dougie.
The name is John. For them dudes who don't know me, I know I'm from the west, but I can teach you how to Dougie. I step up in the club and all these girls but me. Your boy dancing, none of them know me. I hear the squad screaming like, hey, get it, Brody. So I move my shoulders and I take it real low. They like how we do that, he can Dougie on the floor. Yeah, and when your boy stop, they like Dougie some more. I'm like, your boy kinda tired, and I pass it to the bro and boom. Show these cats how to do that. Down south dance that we learned a little too fast and brought it to the hood and got the whole crew cast. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck.
Everybody love me. Everybody love me. Everybody love me. You ain't messing with my Dougie.
Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck.
Everybody love me. Everybody love me. Everybody love me. You ain't messing with my Dougie.
Back of the party, I don't really like to boogie. I'ma put up in the way and try to meet a red bone. She do her Dougie and every girl hating, but I'm thinking about escaping with her to head home. She got a friend, so it's a two-man, and I wanna run it even if her legs long. She like you heavy, I think she love me, but I change the subject and I do my Dougie. All the bros call me lucky cause they see the girl I'm with and she ready, so we rushing. I turned off my kick cause I don't wanna hear no fussing. Cali swag got them haters under their breath cussing. Man, you can't tell me nothing. Star made the beat, I just took it out the oven. I just see the Dougie when everybody clubbing and they yell CSD.
They know we keep it bumping.
Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck.
Everybody love me. Everybody love me. Everybody love me. You ain't messing with my Dougie.
Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck. Teach me how to duck.
Everybody love me. Everybody love me. Everybody love me. You ain't messing with my Dougie. All right, we are back. We are talking about malignant narcs, sharing some things about personal experiences. We've got 5 viewers right now. This is a secret, not so secret live stream, kind of like the Elders book. And I just received a package. Wow, I'll tell you, Amazon is really great. I ordered this about 2 days ago on a Thursday, and I didn't expect to get it on a Saturday. I expected to at least maybe get it next Thursday. Here, Dad, look at this. You like that? You want to inspect the package? So my cat, he likes plastic. He's obsessed with anything plastic, especially something that rattles like this. He loves it. So he always has to smell it and check it out. Here you go. Perfect. Beautiful stuff. So let's talk about this stuff in the XJW community, everybody. What do you think about this? Evie Brooklyn and Something Found and Chia and Big Boss, whoever else is listening. What do you think about all of that? Do you think that there is a high propensity for narcs in the community? Do you think it's something that people can work on? Do you think it's something that's just stuck in people? I think some people could probably work on it, but you know, change work is hard, right? We all know change work is super hard. So I don't know, but I do see that we have a lot of people in the community, groups forming that are narcissistic, and I talked to you about it some months back when we talked about the Wiley Handbook of Psychology of Leadership Change and Organizational Development. Matter of fact, let me take my mind maps out here. Remember we discussed this about organizational psychology, and this is one of the books. Another one was An Introduction to Social Psychology by William McDougall, which, if you remember, I gave you 3 fundamental forms of mental interaction in any group, whether it's a family, a 2-person relationship, or an organization like H&R Block or Jehovah's Witnesses or Scientology. There's 3 fundamental forms of mental interaction: suggestion, sympathy, and imitation. And on page 221 of An Introduction to Social Psychology by William McDougall, it says that imitation is the essence of social life. Imitation. And I know I see this a lot in the XJW groups. Lots of people are looking to each other to see how to act. Lots of people are looking to someone else to see how to translate something. Is this acceptable? Well, so-and-so is accepting it, and these people over here aren't setting their boundaries, so maybe I don't need to set my boundaries, right? And this tendency is normal. It's normal. It's not necessarily healthy or efficient all the time, but now that you know that this is something that's part of the game, so to speak, you can look at it in a different way. Imitation is the prime condition of all collective mental life, and it is the principal condition of this profound alteration of individuals. So whenever you have a group dynamic, you have an alteration of the individuals. They are altered. They are not the same individuals they would be without that group. Hey, Kit Kat, look at you, big old cat. Hey, Tick Tick, look at Big Tiger Cat. Hey, Big Tiger. This is my orange tabby tiger. He's huge. He looks like a teddy bear, and he decided to just wake up just now. He's one of the most mellow cats I've ever known. He hardly meows at me, but when he does, I know it's serious. Sometimes he meows at me when he wants a treat, you know, or when he's wanting to, he wants me to open the door somewhere. Maybe the door's closed and he wants to come through, but Sometimes he just meows at me, and I feel like it's a meow of happiness. He'll just look at me with hearts in his eyes, and he'll just let out a loud meow, and it's kind of like a cat saying "I love you" or something like that. I don't know, but he's one of the most mellow cats I know. He doesn't. Very very sweet cat. Very very sweet cat. All of my cats are sweet, but sometimes Dev, he's very mischievous, he's very jealous, and he bugs the other cats. He likes to fight them for attention and all of that. And Dev is a talker. He meows all the time. So that's how cats are. But even cats have territorial. They get territorial and they get competitive, and you see this in people too. And I think in the XJW community, you have a lot of competition with people, with each other. And unfortunately, it gets out of hand. It really does. But there is a dark side to every group. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Both of these books here talk about groups having a dark side. And it makes sense when you think about it. The shadow sides of groups. This is page 86 of Wiley Blackwell Handbook of the Psychology of Leadership Change and Organizational Development, page 86. And it says here there are three basic assumptions about groups. Now, for the most part, they are unconscious assumptions. But when you're dealing with people like Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, these are very conscious because they are pounded into your head, right? Number one is the fight or flight assumption. The world is a dangerous place, right? Worldly people are not to be trusted. They're wicked. They're really wicked. So you really don't want to fool with them. So the assumption is that the outside world is dangerous. And it splits the world into two, either friends or enemies. Either you're Jehovah's Witness or you're worldly. Okay? The next one is dependency assumption. Now, once again, usually it's unconsciously assumed in groups, but when you're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, this is consciously pounded into your head that the group is offering you protection and guidance similar to parents, right? And isn't that what they call the organization, the mother organization? Wait on Jehovah, wait on the organization. Don't run ahead of the organization. Don't run ahead of the chariot. So your guidance and your protection is coming from the group. And you're unified by feelings of helplessness, right? Because if this isn't the truth, then what is? Where am I to go? I don't have anywhere else to go if this isn't the truth. If this isn't God's organization, there's nowhere else to go. And that makes a feeling of helplessness, right? You also unify by feelings of inadequacy. You're never good enough. You can do everything right, and that may get you saved at Armageddon. Isn't that what they say? Right? You're unified by feelings of neediness because you don't have any personal power in this. You have to follow and obey. You're like a kid and you're needy, you're codependent, and you have a unified, you're also unified by feelings of fear of the outside world. And basically, what it boils down to is these people are unified by readily giving up their freedom and autonomy. They're spiritual children. They're adult children, adult child syndrome. And the third basic assumption about groups is pairing assumption. That pairing up with a person or a group will help you cope with anxiety, alienation, and loneliness. And this pairing assumption doesn't have to be in a group. It can be people, women that can't live without a man, guys that, will just let women do whatever because they need to be with someone. You have this all the time because it is an assumption inside that being with someone or joining a group, being with other people is going to help you deal with the problems and the stress and the anxiety that you have internally, that conflict, and everybody's afraid of being alone at some point, everybody gets that fear. So those who have it more extreme are drawn to these kinds of groups. And this is where the narcs gotcha. You see, if it's not money, it's psychological dependence, emotional dependence. And a lot of people can be gotten like that. You can be a high powered doctor. You can be a head doctor of your whole firm, your whole practice, a high powered lawyer or a judge. When you come into your firm, everybody stands up, everybody's afraid. You're the big kahuna, but you still have to deal with those same fears and anxieties that everyone else does. Everyone else does. And there is a vulnerability there, right? So you have this big powered man in this situation who becomes a little kid in the cult. He has to grovel, he has to follow orders. So here's the fantasy that the most effective creation will take place in pairs with other people. But what happens is that the pairing results in intra-group conflicts. And do we not see this so perfectly with the ex-Jehovah's Witness activist groups? Perfect examples. Perfect examples. Get yourself this book here. Psychiatrist Wilfred Bion, B-I-O-N, describes these three basic assumptions about groups. The shadow side of groups, page 86 of Wiley Blackwell's Handbook of the Psychology of Leadership, Change, and Organizational Development. So let me see. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to pull out of that one for now. What do you think about that? Does that make sense to you? Is that way off in left field? Or is it right on the money? Because I think it's right on the money, actually. Let me check in the live chat and see what anybody had to say. Any new thoughts on that? Okay. I was kicked out of the Vast Apostate Army Facebook group. Was it a month ago? 2 months ago? I don't know. It was recent, sometime recent. And at the time, I wasn't kicked out for anything I did in the group. I didn't break any group rules. I hadn't even posted in the group. I was kicked out for for being invited on the Vast Apostate Hour to speak about something that was done wrong to a friend of mine, Big Boss, 411 Big Boss. And I spoke my mind, my opinion, and my experience, and my interpretation of my experience. And I was invited by the host, by the owner of that channel. So because of that, I was then kicked out of that group's Facebook group. Is that a setup? I don't think it was a setup. But really, it's strange, don't you think? I mean, the group has a YouTube channel. that I was invited on to talk about, to talk on. And then for that, I was kicked and blocked and banned. Now, I really don't care either way because, it whoever owns that group, they can do what they want. But it sure is strange. Now that I'm thinking about it, I do wonder, was that a setup? I mean, if you wanted to just get rid of me, why not just tell me to go fuck off? I've already asked you, do you want me to leave the group? And you told me no. So I don't get that. But anyway, I thought about it some time, and it wasn't even 2 or 3 days after that event that all hell broke loose with them and their own internal dramas. And it was embarrassing for them, I think. I was embarrassed for them. And I felt bad for so many people in there that I thought had a good, their mind and hearts were in the right place. But I wondered if she didn't do me a favor by kicking and banning me. And now in hindsight, I have to say, hands down, it was a good thing. I'm so glad I was not in that shitstorm. You know, it's like that runway train on a one-way track going to hell stopped one more time to kick my ass off of it. They were like, nah, bitch, you ain't riding this train to hell. We want your ass out of our train. And it doesn't always feel all that good when shit like that happens, right? Hey, no, Dev. Hey, stop it. Come here. No, Dev. Go. Go. No, Dev. Yeah, he's trying to bug the other cats because I'm talking and not giving him attention. Come on. Come on, Coco. Don't let him bug you. Come over here. So they said, no, bitch, we don't want you on this train anymore. So at the time, I was like, that's not really nice. It's not really sweet. But hey, after I saw that train blow up, that train kicked me off, closed the doors, and kept on trucking right down that track. And I saw it go until huge explosion. And I'm like, ho, I am so glad I was not on that train. Damn. And it hadn't stopped exploding since, I believe, huh? I mean, it's just one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. So yeah, I've been detaching from a lot of things, including the XJW community, mentally and psychically and psychologically, uh, more so than anything. Okay, I'm gonna have to close this door because this cat is doing his thing. Huh? He's always bugging people, huh? He's always bugging you. So, where was I at? Oh yeah. So what I was thinking about, really, is that a lot of people are caught up in things, and it's not just in the XJW community, but since we are from that arena, it's something I keep referring back to. And I had somebody send me death threats, send me threats, and kick me out of their group too because that person did not like my opinions that I expressed on my channel, and he wasn't even around when the issue actually happened. He was a brand new person, just on the scene, but I guess he thought he was somebody, and just yells at me, screams like a maniac, and tells me, "Did you notice I kicked you from my group?" No, I didn't, but now I do know. Okay, and Well, I wasn't going to get involved with this, but I don't like the way you're talking about so and so on your YouTube. So I want you to shut it down. I want you to take it down and shut up, or else I'm going to come fuck with you. And then, these were both written and verbal threats. And this person and I, well, I thought we were okay, we're cool. All of a sudden, this guy does a 180, and he's not even interested in hearing anything I got to say. He's already made up his mind, and he's not even all up in the Kool-Aid and doesn't know the fucking flavor. That's the gist of it. All up in it, and decides to do death threats, verbal death threats. Dang, he's gonna come after me. And he's been through 40 years of 50 years of shit, and he's gonna take it all out on me. All out on me. So I marinated on that for a couple of minutes, and I said, oh, and he said to take him serious, that he was very serious about what he was threatening. So I marinated on that for a minute, and I said, okay, I'm gonna take you serious. Person told me that all the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have unfriended me and that I have no more friends left, that I'm all alone now. And I found that very interesting because I do think that is a hidden fear of a lot of people in the community there in the ex-Jehovah's Witness land. It's a lot of people afraid to be shunned and blocked, to be banned and kicked from social media groups and from each other's Facebook. Naturally, because they're being shunned by their family, right? So here you now have this group of people that you connected with, and all of a sudden now you're being told, at least someone's attempting to make you believe that now you've lost all of your friends, and you're completely alone. Playing on a common fear that we all have. Okay? It's a common fear that we all have. Afraid of being alone. Well, of course, that didn't work with me because, I have checklists. I'm a bookworm. I read psychology and psychotherapy. I've got this book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And one of the big truths about fear is that everyone has fear. But nonetheless, I did take him serious. What is it, girl? Huh? I don't have any treats right now. Come on. Hmm? I don't have any treats right now, okay? Come on, cutie. Come on, cutie girl. You are so silly, huh? Always trying to get treats from me. I already gave you some this morning. This little Coco girl over here, she wants treats all the time. All the time. So, naturally, it didn't work with me because, number one, I don't give a damn if every last Jehovah's Witness or ex-Jehovah's Witness blocks me off of every social media ever. Do you know how easy it is to jump into a brand new community, make a new screen name, and jump into a brand new community? Do you know how many communities there are out there? There's cat communities, there's knitting communities, there's cooking communities. Oh my good, there's workout, diet, fitness communities. There's music communities. Do you know how many communities there are within like 5 minutes you can get going? How many forums there are? There's psychology forums. There's forums just about narcissists. Thousands of people every day posting and chatting about the narcissists in their lives and what they went through. There's even Facebook groups talking about just this. So, That didn't work with me, you know. I saw through that, but I said to myself, maybe that's what he's afraid of, you see? Because a lot of times when people try to scare you with certain things, they're really telling you what they're afraid of. And I said to myself, I think this guy has a desperate need for approval from others, approval seeking syndrome. And his sense of safety is hinged on the group. Thereby, he's easily manipulated. And someone's been manipulating him to do these threats because the person themselves won't do it to my face because they know I'll get in that ass. But they'll manipulate and send someone there to do their dirty work, thinking that, well, you know, if that person gets blown to smithereens, I'll be in the clear because I'm behind the scenes. They won't figure it out. So you know what I did? I took the guy serious and I called the police. I had him come to my house and I showed the police officers all of what he's wrote and the recordings. And we did an incident report. We filed a police report here, and they contacted the local RCMP in his area too. And I talked to one of the RCMPs there for a good 30 to 40 minutes and gave them all the information I had on this person because I had his phone number, and from that I dug up his home address and his date of birth and a few other pieces of info. Because let me tell you something. I don't give a damn XJW or not. I was going to make an example of him. I've been bullied. I've been beaten. I've been abused for many years as a kid. Many, many years. And I'll be damned if somebody does that to me now. I'm going to fuck your ass up. I sure am going to try. And I have a mind that can think of how to do one thing 1,001 times over again. So I was going to make an example of him. But lucky for him, he went cricket. He didn't make any new screen names like he promised me to fuck with me. If he did, I don't see him. But I haven't seen or heard anything of him since I got the police involved. I said to myself, hope he's got a clean slate. Hope he's got no skeletons in his closet. And I hope he's a law-abiding citizen where he's at. Because I'm sure as shit going to bring some police attention to his home and to his life. So, you know, you have these narcissistic bullies in the ex-Jehovah's Witness land. I don't want to call it a community anymore. Is it really a community? Oh, Evie Brooklyn says, I was never an activist, just spoke my mind on my channel, which I took down. All XJW content. I paid it forward and have moved on. I jump on chats here and there. That's it. Yeah. Some XJWs have caged rage. They let loose on whoever they can. I like the individuals, not groups. I like people but hate gatherings. LOL. How the hell you going to speak for all XJWs not being your friend? Who does he think he is? John Cedars? Well, he thought he was something until he got a little flavor from me, okay? Because I told him two things after I let him rant and rave and scream at me on the phone for a couple of minutes. I let him go ahead and do his threats because I was recording his fucking ass. I let him go ahead and do it. And then at the end, I said, I don't give a fuck what you think. Goodbye. And my next phone call was to the po-po. I'm telling you, Evie Brooklyn, had he pursued it, I would have made an example of him. I'm telling you. Ooh, I would have done him good. I would have got his ass good. I was rubbing my fucking hands. After I had called all the police and filed that incident report and had all the records and made copies and had all my guns cocked, my metaphorical guns, so to speak. I was like, come on with it, bitch. and I heard nothing. It was just a dead silence. I'll give you an example of how I do things. I grew up being threatened to be put away for not washing dishes, for not cleaning. And when I wasn't threatened to be put away, this is what they would say: we're going to put you away. We're going to put you in an orphanage. We're going to put you in a foster home. And then as I got older, too old to be put in an orphanage, I guess, 15 and 16, then I was threatened to be locked up. I'm going to get you locked up in some kind of way. Some kind of way I'm going to get you locked up. You better wash these dishes before I get you locked up. Get you put in jail. I'll figure a way to put you in jail. And this is the Jehovah's Witness way. They threaten police. Anytime you come to them and you talk about something and they realize you used to be one of them, they want to get you set up. They want to get you arrested. Right? So, after years and years of that, Incubator made good on it. To prevent me from going to the DA, she tried her best to get me, quote unquote, locked away. Tried to get me locked away for being transgender. And, Alabama being Alabama, you know what I'm saying? It's not a far stretch. I mean, you're going to embellish some things. You're going to tell them what they need to hear so that they can make you can make a bogus false claim. I was picked up. I was told something was wrong with me and I needed to be evaluated. This is the thing in Alabama. Anybody that's legally related to you can call the probate office and can tell them that they are afraid of you or that you are a danger to your own life, and you will have a sheriff come get you. And if you're transgender, oh man, they really gonna come get you. You know what I mean? So I'm working out at the gym. I'm standing. I'm going out the door. Here comes this huge sheriff van just zooming fast. They stop right in front of me, ask me my name. I affirm that's me. Two of these sheriffs get out. We need to talk to you. I'm like, what? They're already grabbing me, handcuffing me like a fucking criminal. I'm like, what's going on? And there's nothing I can do. I'm put in a trailer somewhere way out behind a hospital. It's not even on the hospital campus, but I guess it's part of the hospital. I'm in this trailer, and I'm in this trailer with, people coming off of drugs. This guy's kicking the door down because he's going crazy. He needs his drugs. I'm in there with gang members. I'm in there with people that really need to be in there. They're talking to themselves. Their hair is messed up. They haven't even, gotten out of their pajamas. Here I am. And I get in there on a Wednesday. I'm told my court date's Friday. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm only going to be here a couple of days. Still, my freedom is taken away. These fuckers have not proved anything. And I'm locked in this thing. Every time I go to the bathroom, somebody has to watch me pee. Every time I need to shave in the morning, they have to watch me. I have to ask if I can breathe. But guess what they have? Because by this time, I'm angry. I'm like, you fucking bitch. You fucking instigated all these beatings and molestations. You molested and beat me, bitch. Beat me, bitch. Right along with your husband. And you're going to get me locked up. You're going to try and get me. This is what was going in my head. So you know what I did? Because before that sheriff came, I went to the police for assault charges because the step had smacked me and beat me up in that kitchen. And I told him, if I get up off that floor, you're going to have to kill me because I'm going to the police. Well, I got up off the floor and went to the police and filed assault charges on him. They took pictures of me and everything. And they hadn't arrested him yet because they had went by their home and he wasn't home. So I'm in this trailer. And the next day, after lunch, I'm told that we get phone privileges. They have 3 times a day that the phone is made available and you can call whoever you want. So, guess who I call? Not Ghostbusters. I call the police. But I don't call the police just yet. First, I call the incubator. And I pretend to be highly, highly, highly upset. I'm not happy, but I got a plan. I'm like, bitch, okay, you gonna do this to me? Let me show you something. So I call her and I say, how could you do this to me, my own mother? Why didn't you tell me you were doing this? She says, I don't have to tell you anything. I hang up and I call the police and let them know. They're home now. They're home right now. I just checked. And I wait 5 minutes, drink my coffee, eat my Cinnabon, and then I call the incubator back. And I say, I still can't believe you did this. One, hoping she's going to say something, whether, the cops are there or not. Sure enough, she says, I'm tired of this. The police are here and we're going to get arrested. And I go, oh, well, I guess I'll let you go. Click. That was the last time I talked to her. Well, but after that, I went back over there with the police officer to get a couple of my belongings, including my ID. And I told her she no longer had a son and she was no longer my mother. But even though I was detained in that trailer and I had to ask to take a piss, I still got their asses arrested for that assault. He still went to jail. He went to jail for 16 hours. They handcuffed his ass and put him in a jail cell. Yes. And I know it did something to them. You see, this is what I'm doing. This is how I am. You can try and set me up if you want. You can try and bully me if you want. But I'm not going to take it. I'm going to do my damnedest. I'm going to do my damnedest to protect myself. And if that involves cutting your jugular, metaphorically speaking, then I won't blink an eye. I can get very, very ruthless. And I don't care if you're an XJW or not. I don't give a fuck if you gave birth to me. You understand? Because I have no more tolerance. Some people can go all their life taking abuse. And they'll take it to the grave. And then there's some people that have a limit. And once that limit is reached, you best back off because it will get very, very ugly. And I will let you have the last word. I will let you win the fight. But you're going to lose the war. And that's exactly what happened. I was detained and I still got her fucking ass and his ass in jail. So back to this thing here with this guy doing his bullying thing. I said, okay, you do what you got to do. So yeah, you have to stand up to bullies. You have to. You can't be afraid. And when they do set you up and you happen to be caught up, always know that you always can do something in return. You see, I I had a girlfriend years ago that would threaten me every time she would threaten to call the police on me. I'm telling you, this pattern followed me. This fucking pattern followed me for a long time. And she would threaten to call the police on me every time I confronted her about some lies that she said to me. Some shady shit she did. And she would threaten. She would tell me, I'm going to set you up. I'm going to call the police and tell them you're harassing me and beating me, and they'll arrest you. And I said, how are you going to do that when there's no evidence? She says, well, I'll just make a bruise. I'll just punch myself or something. I said, all right. And she got me the first couple of times. I was worried, and I said, I really can't be with this person. I mean, I just don't trust people like that. Why the fuck would you do this? And then she would apologize and tell me, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I love you. And as soon as she got angry, she would say it again. And this went on for a little while until one day I said to her, I said, now look, you're welcome to do this, but let's look at this scenario. Let's explore this scenario, shall we? Let's just say best case scenario for you and worst case for me. You call the police and you manage to, set me up in some kind of way and get me arrested. And let's just say I end up in jail 6 months, a year. On the surface, that would look like something pleasing to you, right? But when you're dealing with a man with nothing left to lose, you're dealing with a very dangerous person. And then I said, let me remind you that your family has these criminal activities that haven't been reported. And let's just say, hypothetically speaking, if a man with nothing left to lose in jail uses his phone privileges to call the DEA and the ATF and the immigration, USCIS immigration, and notifies them of these dealings of what your family's doing, could that possibly affect their ability to stay in the US? Could that possibly affect their ability to even come back to the US? It's just a question, just some interesting things to think about. And then I said to her, now your job there, you're doing X. I'm not going to say what she was doing, but I will say that I said, now think about it. A man sitting in jail 24 hours with nothing left to do, nothing left to lose, with access to a pen and paper and a phone, maybe even library privileges, and perhaps even computer, internet. And let's say that person just so happens to call the board of so and so, which regulates her career. It regulates her licensing and career. And I said, what if that person were to call the board and let them know of your activities? And what if that person called your HR department and let them know of that from jail? Do you think that it could possibly affect your employment and your employment in that field in the future? Do you think it could possibly affect your immigration status? And lo and behold, I actually wrote that in a letter too. I didn't speak it, I wrote it. And lo and behold, there was no more mention of calling the police. So you win. I mean, you can do it, but you might win that fight. I'll let you have the last word because I'm going to have plenty of time to win the war. And she shut her fucking mouth ever since then, you see. Anyway, we have 7 viewers talking. We have 7 viewers right now, and we are talking about malignant narcissists. All right, Evie Brooklyn says, "Okay, I already read that last one." But yeah, these bullying tactics, trying to get a one-up on somebody, trying to control and manipulate people, it's just not cool. And I see it all the time with people who is doing the XJW activism thing. I think it's mostly a social club, and I think there is some activism, but I think it's probably number 4 or 5 on the priority list of 90% of the activists. Seriously. I think getting money and getting sex and getting approval is probably more on the top of that priority list, filling that void. But the actual activism, I think it's kind of like a side afterthought. You know what I mean? It's there, don't get me wrong, but it certainly isn't number 1. And the reason I say that is because when I did the Kingdom Hall crash, my very last crash, I promised myself I would never do this again because it bothered me to no end. That crash had an elder on cam admit that there are child abuse cases in that very Kingdom Hall. And I tried my best to notify the local police, and they told me that I and the other person that witnessed the crash have to come in person to file those reports. I called CPS. CPS said, well, unless you have a specific name of a kid, we can't come out there. We can't do anything. I said, what do you mean? I've got this person on cam admitting. Of course he's not going to tell you the kid's name. Why can't you go out here and investigate? Well, this is how it is. We can't do it. CPS couldn't do shit. That's what they told me. The sheriff said we had to come in. And the person that I did the Kingdom Hall crash with, I tried my best to get him to go with me. And, he promised he would put it off next week sometime. Next week we'll go, yeah. But he wasn't going to do it. And I realized these crashes are not to help kids. They're not really about stopping child abuse. Because I really did try. And I got no kind of help from nobody. I put a video out. I put a message. Please help. Please call the sheriff. Here's the number. Nobody, no fucking body but me. I called the fucking California governor's office. They told me they couldn't help me. They referred me right back to the local police. I emailed so many people because I wanted so many eyes on this. And not one goddamn XJW called me up and said, look, I'm not in California, but I want to do something. Let me help you. Not one fucking XJW messaged me and said, let me help you with this. Let's figure it out. Nobody. Everybody sat around and watched and enjoyed the crash. But that's as far as it went. So, here we go with the narcissism again. It's just straight up narcissism, people. You think these people are doing something good? Yes, they might be doing something good. The narcissist might help you fix your flat tire. They love it when they can help you in a desperate situation not because they're helping you, but because now they can hold it over you. And even if you do pay them back, they're still going to say, well, remember when I helped you when your tire was flat and you needed to go to work? And I saved you from getting fired? You'll never, ever pay off that debt. In their mind, you will always owe them. Even if you repay them 5 times over again, you will still owe them. And it's all about them. And this is what I'm seeing in the ex-Jehovah's Witness activism thing. Lots of people out for themselves. Lots of people just really just screwing each other over at the drop of a hat, at the drop of a dime. It doesn't take much. It doesn't even take much. And, you know, I don't know. So I'm going to take another song break and I'm going to see what, let me see what kind of song break I want to do here. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to play You Play Too Much. Play Too Rough. Yeah, Blue Six. Here we go. All right, I'll be back.
Everybody gonna take time with 10 nights out, gonna mess with your peace of mind. Everybody gonna lose control. Stop right now when you get where you wanna go. Oh, think that's enough. Oh, 'cause you play too rough. Anybody gonna make it high when love comes down? Shake you or make it blind. Now you're moving and just can't stop. When love comes calling and you wanna rock. Come on, baby, we can work the night. You're inside out, afraid of the things you find. Had something that you still want more. Lose yourself, and you'll find what you're looking for. Are you where you are? 'Cause you wanna get love. Oh, but you play too rough. Oh, think that's enough. Oh, but you play too rough. Come on. Get down, honey, now you make me see. A little bit of six of the magazine. What you doing, everybody knows. When you get me, you lose your soul. Got the best transmission, but your heart to weak. Acting kind of reckless, taking what you need. More money doesn't make it right.
All right, I'm back. We've got 5 people watching right now. And we are talking about malignant narcissists. You know, I spoke to somebody day before yesterday. I was at Starbucks on my way to my favorite place, and was gonna have a couple of drinks. And I happened to stop by Starbucks to charge my phone up, and it was full. People everywhere. I didn't see anywhere where I could sit without asking somebody to let me sit at their table and charge up my phone. And I walk around to the other half of the store, and I see this woman motion me over, and she takes her hand and she pats the seat next to her. And I walk over there and I say, "Excuse me, can I just share this seat right quick? I want to charge my phone for a little bit." And she's like, "Sure, come on over here." And of course, she wants to talk. I feel obligated to conversate with her because she was gracious enough to share her table with me. All right, and I was desperate for some battery juice. So in the course of that, she tells me all about her husbands. I think she's had two or three husbands. And she tells me all kinds of things, life story. Well, come to find out, at least that's what she's telling me from her end, is that one of her mother in laws is narcissistic. Now, she doesn't say the word narcissist, but all the descriptions fit. And she tells me that the mother in law had messed up her husband so bad since childhood because she neglected her children. And because of that neglect, one of the kids ended up dying, her husband's sister. They were like 6 and 9 years old. And what it was I'm trying to remember it correctly, but something to the effect of she would send these kids out all day, unsupervised, out to stand, sit outside the home, out of her hair, and they'd be hungry and thirsty, and so they would find ways to hide uh, water and milk. And her husband, when he was a little kid there with his sister, he poured some milk in a spigot. I guess there was some toxic chemicals, and I guess he didn't know any better. He poured the milk in there for them to drink. And when the sister went looking for something to drink, he told her, "Hey, we have some right here in this spigot." And when she went to drink, she got poisoned, and they rushed her to the hospital, but she ended up dying. So the mother always blamed her son, saying that if you hadn't have told her to drink out of that spigot, she wouldn't have died. When in reality, it was her negligence, her always locking the kids out of the house, having them just play outside all day without being supervised, without giving them any food and drinks. So this man carried this his whole life. And even though, he was able to work at some point, he even joined the Marines, he had to be pretty badass, but that was still pulling at him, and it caught up with him because by the time she met him, that was her second or third husband. She said he was a mess. He was getting a check from, the Marines, but she was trying to get him to work, and she would tell him, "Look, all you have to do is get a job and take care of yourself. You don't have to help me take care of the kids." And I said, "Wow, that was really something, because most wives, they're going to expect the husband to take care of these kids, help put food on the table, bring home that paycheck, right?" Well, she said he never could get it together. He never could keep a job anymore. All he had was his check there from the military. And it was just, she said that she loved him, but he just he couldn't help her. And she told me that the mother-in-law actually beat her up one time. So, who knows if, how the whole story goes, but the point is, there was another person that told me about a narcissist in their life. Just so happened to be a coincidental thing, I guess. But after I got my phone charged up, I thanked her for the conversation, and I thanked her for letting me, share that space there. And she says to me, uh, she asks me where could she find a good dating partner. Now, mind you, this lady is probably in her 60s or 70s. And I'm wondering why she's asking me that. And I said, you just have to look around. You just have to be patient. You'll meet the right person. But I appreciate you talking with me, Susan, and you have a good one, okay? And that was it. But yeah, narcissists. I think everybody's had to cross at least one or two, right? Anyway, we've got three people watching right now, and I don't know. It's about lunchtime now. I think I might be closing shop on this live stream. Oh, before I do though, I wanted to share something with you. This book here called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Let me show you this book. I've been working with this book a little bit because I've been having to deal with fear, inner fear, and fear of doing something new, fear of stepping out of my comfort zone. You know how it is, right? We all have to deal with fear. So, if you are somebody who's interested in working through your fears, because a lot of the things that we fear, we don't need to. 90% of what we fear, we don't need to fear. So, this is the book here, Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Dynamic techniques for turning fear, indecision, and anger into power, action, and love. Now, the gist of this book is that everybody needs a cheering squad or a rooting squad, right? But fear, what is it for you? This is on page 3. Fear of public speaking, fear of asserting yourself, fear of making decisions, fear of getting hurt, fear of intimacy, fear of changing jobs, fear of being alone, fear of aging, fear of driving, fear of losing a loved one or ending a relationship. Is it all of the above? Is it some of the above? Perhaps you could add a few more to the list. Never mind, join the crowd. Fear seems to be epidemic in our society. So this is something that probably everybody can take a look at. But she has some really cool stuff here. She talks about the 3 levels of fear. Level 1 fear is things like aging, becoming disabled, making decisions, changing career, war, dying, loss of financial security, natural disasters, children leaving home, ending or beginning a relationship, asserting oneself, losing weight. Level 2 fears is rejection, success, failure, being vulnerable, being conned, helplessness, disapproval, loss of image. And these are inner states of mind, you see. The level 1 are things that happen. People are going to be alone. Some people become disabled. When you grow old, you're going to not be able to do things the same way like you were when you were younger. Loss of financial security, that can happen. War can happen. Dying, we all going to have to die. But the level 2 are inner states like helplessness and failure, being vulnerable. Level 3 is only one word: I can't handle it. That's it? That's the big deal, you may ask? I know you're disappointed and wanted something much more dramatic than that, but the truth is this. At the bottom of every one of your fears is simply the fear that you can't handle whatever life may bring you. I can't handle illness. I can't handle getting old. I can't handle being alone. I can't handle responsibilities of success. I can't handle failure. I can't handle being rejected. The truth is, if you knew you could handle anything that came your way, what would you possibly have to fear? Now, I know that sounds easier said than done, right? But this is where narcs get you. Because when narcissists size you up, they're going to pinpoint your your fears, and they're going to use them against you. So, in a way, this book here and the principles behind it are kind of like a safety net or like a shield from narcissists, especially malignant ones. And I think that XJWs as a whole, a lot of them are afraid of being alone, right? Because of the shunning and all of that. Just like this guy that sent these threats to me wanted to make me believe that every person in the XJW world has now unfriended me, which wasn't true at all. I had all of 500 and something still on my friends list. I think there was maybe 5 or 6 people that I didn't see there anymore, but okay. But nonetheless, I think it's a common fear. But the thing is, all you have to do to diminish your fear is develop more trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Now, that's easier said than done, right? But if you think about that for a minute, it's true, isn't it? If you could develop more self-trust, I bet you could shake off several unnecessary fears. Now, on page 17 of this very book, this is what she says. And this is interesting because we just talked about this. In all my life, I've never heard a mother call out to her child as he or she goes off to school and say, "Take a lot of risks today, darling." She is more likely to convey to her child something like, "Be careful. The world is really a dangerous place out there and you won't be able to handle it." Well, this "be careful" can have a double message, right? It can signal uh, to the child that the world is a dangerous place and you won't be able to handle it. But really, what she's saying is if something happens to you, then mommy won't be able to handle it. You see that? Now, I'm sure mommy's meaning well here. But back to this, the world is a dangerous place. This is what narcs will take advantage of. This isolation tendency, this being afraid of not getting approval, being afraid of not having friends, or being afraid of just alone. There's nothing wrong with being alone. You do need some alone time, you know. But it's interesting that we have this on here. The world is really a dangerous place because that's a common fear, whether it's somebody from the XJW background or not. So these 5 major truths about fear, I'm going to read them to you. I see you over there. I see you. What do you want? What you want to do? Huh? Can I go on with my live stream? Huh? Come on. Here. Here's something else. All right. So truth number 1. The fear will never go away as long as I continue to grow. So if you're working on yourself, if you're growing, you're going to feel fear. That's just how it is. It's part of the human experience. You ain't never going to make it go away. You cannot make it go away. Well, at least you can face it and work through it, but you're not going to be without fear because you're growing. You're constantly out of your comfort zone. The truth number 2, the only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to go out and do it. So you can hum and haw, you can plan, but until you just get out there and do it, you're still going to be stuck in fear mode. All right, truth number 3. The only way to feel better about myself is to go out and do it. Sounds a lot like number 2, right? But this is the thing. If you've got fear paralyzing you or fear's nipping at you about something, whether it's changing a job or moving or, starting a new hobby or performing, maybe you play an instrument and you haven't really performed in certain arenas or audiences the way you want to, and you're afraid, or public speaking in front of people. Well, the only way to feel better about it is to go out and do it. You just have to do it. Truth number 4: not only am I going to experience fear whenever I'm on unfamiliar territory, but so is everyone else. So growing includes being in unfamiliar territory at some point, right? Because you're growing. You're growing past your ordinary bubble there. You're expanding, and you're going to have unfamiliar territory to deal with. Well, anytime you're with unfamiliar territory, the fear is going to creep up. The chatterbox is going to creep up in your mind. But guess what? Everyone has it. Everyone. Here it says in this book, you mean all those people out there that I've been envying because they're not afraid to move ahead with their lives have really been afraid? Why didn't somebody tell me? Well, I guess I never asked. I was sure I was the only person out there feeling so inadequate. It was such a relief to realize I was not alone. I had the rest of the world to keep me company. I remember a newspaper article I read a number of years ago about Ed Koch, the seemingly fearless mayor of New York City. The article told of how he had to learn a tap dance routine with the cast of a Broadway show for a publicity event. His teacher reported that the mayor was scared to death. This was hard to believe. A man who had often faced crowds of angry people, who had made many difficult decisions affecting millions of lives, who had put himself before the public in his race to be mayor, and he was afraid to learn a simple tap dance? So, this is what I'm bringing to you. We all have fears and vulnerabilities and inadequacies. At least we perceive these things as inadequacies, and it's the tendency is to think that you're the only one, and you might even feel some shame around it, but you don't have to feel ashamed, and you don't have to be stuck in your fears either. All right, it says here that is simply the way it works for all of us. By virtue of all our being human, we share the same feelings, and fear is no exception to the rule. So, many stories similar to this mayor appear in newspapers, magazines, and books and television. Until you are in touch with the fear truths, you will hear about and read and see these stories and not notice the underlying principles operating. You may never relate the experiences of others, especially of celebrities, to your life. You may think they're lucky because they aren't afraid to put themselves out there. Not so. They had to push through a tremendous amount of fear to get where they are today, and they are still pushing. So it takes constant work on this. But the last truth here, the fear truth, is pushing through fear is less frightening than living with the underlying fear that comes from a feeling of helplessness. I want to read this to you again. Pushing through the fear is actually less frightening than living with the underlying fear that comes from a feeling of helplessness. When you're not facing your fear and you're stuck in that helpless rut, that's a lot more frightening to live with than to actually push through it. Because when you push through it, it's done. Once you faced it, it's not the same anymore. You're not afraid the same anymore. But when you never push through it, you're living with that. You're living with the underlying fear for what? Decades? Maybe a lifetime? And that's a lot more frightening, don't you think? The more helpless we feel, the more severe is the undercurrent of dread that comes with knowing there are situations in life over which we have no control, such as death of a spouse or loss of a job. We find ourselves becoming obsessive about possible catastrophes. What if? Well, the fear permeates our lives. That is the irony of the fear truth. Number five, people who refuse to take risks live with a feeling of dread that is far more severe than what they would feel if they took the risks necessary to make them less helpless, only they don't know it. And, we're not talking about stupid risks. You know what I mean? We're not talking about stuff like that where, you're cheating on your mate, or, you're jumping out of a moving car or something stupid like that. But growing, really self examining and going inside of yourself and looking for your shortcomings, facing your dark aspect. And what this has to do with narcissism is that narcissists are experts at finding other people's vulnerabilities and fears. They will size you up, they will study you, and they will use these against you. So when you have been working on your own fears, they have less power. You take back a lot of your power simply by confronting these things. Like number one, being afraid of being alone. That's a common fear. We all have had that at one point or another, and you're going to have it again and again. You know, uh, it's just how it is. But when you face that and you work through it, that's one less ammunition, one last piece of ammunition for someone like a narcissist that may come along and try to use that, manipulate that about you. And I think that's what this guy was doing, that was sending the threats to me. He was trying to dig around. He didn't really know me that well, but he was trying to see where my vulnerability was. And, he was basing it off of his own. So he threw that out there. But living with terror is not, that's a lot more frightening than actually facing the some of the fears. So check out this book, Feel the Fear, Do It Anyway. I think it's an easy read. It's about 200 and something pages. There's also a nice bibliography in the back. Not too thick, but you have things like The Tao of Psychology, Synchronicity in the Self by Gene Shinoda. You have Psychosynthesis by Roberto Assagioli. I haven't read that one yet. You have Anatomy of an Illness by Norman Cousins. You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. I'm not a big fan of Louise Hay, but that book is all right. It's a feel-good book. Let's see. The Art of Fear Busting. Oh, by Susan Jeffers, PhD, the same author of this book here. So I think I might check out The Art of Fear Busting too. Shakti Gawan, Creative Visualization, is also a good one. So check out that. We've got Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled, A New Psychology of Love, Traditional Values, and Spiritual Growth. Transformers, The Therapists of the Future, Jacqueline Small. So yeah, check out this book. It's a really good one. It's one that I try to work with all the time. But yeah, I think I'm about done with this live stream. What do you think about it? I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed talking about malignant narcissists today. There's so much to talk about on this topic, but I'm going to have to get off of here for now. I appreciate you tuning in now and in the future. We had Evie Brooklyn in the live chat. We had 411 Big Boss, Something Found, Sour Blaze Hayes. Who else did we have? We had a whole bunch of people in here earlier. But have a good one, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Do I need an outro? Let's do an outro. It's a beautiful Saturday. Hope you have a good Saturday, and I will see ya.